What is health? A historical perspective. What is health? The dictionary defines health as the state of being free of illness or injury. The World Health Organization, WHO, defines it as complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. There are many other variations and larger, more expansive definitions, including spiritual enlightenment. But at its root, health is about survival at its highest level. Homo sapiens, more than any other mammal, have the most sweat glands. Along with our bipedal stance, which is an evolutionary development, humans can dissipate heat more efficiently than any other animal, including camels and horses. This feature has allowed humans to populate the entire planet. More than any other creature or entity not named bacteria or viruses, humans are the long-distance walkers. The bipedal stance lessens the amount of surface area under direct sunlight, and our sweat glands allow for the body to maintain a constant temperature. It is important to understand that Homo sapiens existed all over the earth as hunters and gatherers for 290,000 years. This is contrasted with the 12,000 years of civilization. With civilization came animal-borne illnesses, agriculture, and urbanization. Therefore, given that only 4% of our time on Earth has been within the confines of civilization, it stands to reason that much of our DNA and wiring would be tied to our Paleolithic ancestors. Furthermore, there are over 400 million indigenous people on Earth today, a substantial number still hunters and gatherers. For some, it means that we should consider eating like them, giving rise to the paleo diet. While what one eats today should largely be based on activity, the paleo diet has merits. It basically states that protein, herbs, roots, berries, nuts, and tubers should form the foundation of what we eat. This diet, in many variations, has sustained us. But even more important to our health and overall well-being is movement. Humans are built to move, and movement gave rise to thought, ideas, and language. It is movement that allowed our forebears, huddled in caves on the coast of southern Africa around 125,000 years ago, to begin their journey. The first journey entailed hugging the eastern coast of Africa, searching for shellfish and edible plants around Arabia to Persia, India, Southeast Asia, Australia, Oceania, up through China and Siberia, across the Bering Sea land bridge to the Americas. Movement, hunger, water, shelter from the elements, safety. This is what constituted health early on and is still the foundation of health today. The reason for moving and the ability to move both arise out of our desire and need for nourishment. In time, movement and nourishment created an increased desire for meaning. Early humans began to ask, what does this all mean? Why am I here? What is my relationship to all this around me? That initial spark, produced by having a surplus of food and leisure time, which was used initially like animals to play, produced our first ceremonies, religions, and spiritual practices. All of these ingredients account for our complexity, And it is understanding that complexity that defines our health today. Movement is life. Stagnation is death. This fundamental precept helped give rise to our first ceremonies. The oldest ceremony on record is the worshipping of a python snake by Africans in Southeast Africa over 80,000 years ago. This ceremony constituted the first sign of collective health. It marked a point where humans began to acknowledge an unseen connection between themselves and the forces of nature. Humans began to see themselves as an intricate part of nature, which necessitated that they understand their environment. Before humans began to speak languages, they thought. The thinking was in spatial terms and was relational. Much of it revolved around hunting and gathering. There were hundreds of plants and thousands of insects, animals, and birds to learn. Early hunters had few weapons and could not kill animals easily. They chased an animal, sometimes for days or weeks, until they either dropped dead of exhaustion or were too weak to put up a fight. This method, called persistence hunting, today conditioned early humans to be able to walk and run vast distances. Humans are the ultimate endurance animals, able to walk or run hundreds of miles without stopping. Movement is a feature of our genetic inheritance that is foundational to our health. Key neurotransmitters in our brains are activated and produced that give rise to abstract thought, language, and writing. But movement was first, because without movement, there is no food gathering. Without food gathering, there is no survival. When we move, which today is often called exercise, but in the past this constituted normal daily activities, proteins are produced in the muscles that influence thought. Insulin-like growth factor, IGF, and vascular endothelial growth factor, VEGF, are both produced in the muscles and travel to the brain. Along with brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, and many others, they help the brain build and maintain cell circuitry and infrastructure. Without muscular movement, this coordination is weakened. It is this infrastructure that allows us to have memory. Repeated activation of synapses cause them to swell and make stronger connections. BDNF is key to synaptic plasticity and directs traffic and engineers the roads as well. It improves the functions of neurons and stimulates growth and protects from cell death. From this fundamental principle of movement, deriving out of a search for food, the longer one can do it, the longer one gets to live. This gives rise to a desire for longevity. The desire or need for longevity gave rise to performance, because those who hunted and gathered efficiently survived the best. And surviving well allowed time to think, devise cosmologies, invent ceremonies, and envision an interconnected universe, all before 12,000 BC, or the birth of civilizations. Therefore, in its simplest form, health is the combination of movement, being able to do it well for a long time, and understand why. Movement, longevity, high performance, and meaning, all are parameters of health. The brain benefits of exercise are numerous. Movement is key for brain function, and the brain is critical in survival. No movement, no brain. Nerve cells are born as blank slates. They have to be used to be activated, and if not used within 28 days, will die. Movement and activity activates new neurons. New neurons play a role in hanging on to our conscious thoughts, while the prefrontal cortex decides if they should be wired in as long-term memories. Being able to hold on to long-term memories was critical in our survival as a species and is an important part of our brain's hardware. Learning and memory evolved in concert with the motor functions that allowed our ancestors to track down food. So as far as our brains are concerned, if we're not moving, there's no real need to learn anything. Longevity. If movement is crucial to our survival, and hence health, it makes sense that the longer one can do it, the healthier they are. And in certain specific regions around the globe, there are communities where people live the longest, many over 100 years. Dan Buettner calls these areas blue zones. A blue zone is defined as areas where we have a demographically confirmed, geographically defined area where people are either reaching age 100 at extraordinary rates, have the highest life expectancy, or the lowest rate of middle-age mortality. Sardinia, Okinawa, Ikaria, Greece, the Loma Linda community in the United States, the Hunza Valley, and the community in Costa Rica are areas where Buettner has identified as blue zones. What sets these areas apart, and what do they all share? It appears the clean environment and water, good natural diet, healthy sex life, naps, wine, and community are some of the shared characteristics lending toward longevity and health. In addition to water, the four most important things to drink for longevity are green tea, black tea, coffee, and wine. The teas and coffee have caffeine, which in small to moderate amounts improves mental functioning and memory. And red wine in small amounts has been found to improve heart function and have antioxidants. Water is the most essential of all fluids, as humans are over 70% water, and every cell interaction, excretion of waste, nerve transmission, digestion, muscle function, enzymes, neurotransmitters, everything needs water. And today, just any water will not do. We need clean water, water devoid of poisons, pesticides, carcinogens, antibiotics, and an assortment of over 50,000 industrial chemicals. If you are not filtering your water or drinking distilled water, you are imbibing thousands of chemicals every day in your water. It adds up. Sexual functioning. Sexual function is not only good for health, it is an indicator of good health. Like bowel and bladder functioning, sleep, and vital signs, sexual function requires a baseline level of core cardiovascular fitness, stamina, and endurance. And if healthy, should be maintained into old age, 80s, sometimes 90s. Diet. We are literally what we eat. The over-commercialization and capitalization of food has distorted what food is for. Food is meant for nutrition and survival. Today, food is a source of profit. Therefore, food is not produced and distributed for health. If it were, there would be no food shortage on the planet. And meat would not be the main item. Even in Paleolithic times, humans ate meat in small quantities because it was hard to come by. The centenarians in Sardinia and Greece eat a Mediterranean diet high in vegetables, beans, olives, with highly desired unsaturated fats, feta cheese low in fat, and lavish amounts of olive oil. Dates, low sugar, a social setting with friends, all ingredients for a satisfying, healthy meal and setting. In each case, movement, activity, and exercise is a common feature. In some cases, it is walking, others gardening, still others dancing. In terms of diet, research is showing that a largely vegan diet supplemented with intermittent fasting is a model going forward. Eat only organic produce. 95% of all corn and soy are genetically modified, GMO. GMO foods causes leaky gut syndrome. The film Genetic Roulette goes into this a great deal by Jeffrey Smith. Dietary guidelines. Drink only distilled or purified water. Eat foods high in water content, vegetables, and fruit. It's best to eat these foods first. Fruit is eaten first because it digests in the small intestine. If eaten later, it ferments and becomes alcohol. Raw vegetables are next, as they have the next highest level of water. Cooked vegetables, grains, protein are eaten last because they require different enzymes for digestion. Ideally, one should drink liquids 30 minutes prior or 1 to 3 hours after eating. If liquids are introduced earlier, they dilute enzymes and slow digestion. One should chew their food at least 20 times. This allows the digestive enzymes in the mouth to begin. One should follow the Prophet Muhammad's instruction. 1/3 of the stomach with liquid, 1/3 with food, and 1/3 should be empty. Never eat too full. Eating too full comes out of our enslaved and oppressed experience of poverty and having experienced hunger in our family tree. Minimal eating makes the physiological system more efficient. Whatever is eaten should be used that day through movement and exertion, not through sitting, and expelled immediately the next day. Eliminate sugar, artificial sweeteners, milk, processed and all red meat. If still eating meat, eat only deep sea fish, organically fed chickens or turkey. The films Fed Up, What the Health, Food Incorporated, and Cowspiracy go into all of this in great detail. Limit the amount of dairy, starches, and salt. Supplements such as vitamin B complex for stress, omega-3s for heart function, vitamin C and D sunshine for immune enhancement are helpful. The main killers in Western culture are stress, heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes. All of these ills are diet and lifestyle related. They are products of a culture out of balance. That is why present-day humans are even more vulnerable to viruses, bacteria, and parasites, our traditional enemies. The vegan diet has many advantages. It lessens the amount of cows domesticated, which will drastically reduce methane emissions. The most important item it eliminates is sugar. Sugar causes inflammation and binds with cholesterol to form arterial plaques, leading to heart disease. Sugar overstimulates insulin production, leading to diabetes, and it adds empty calories devoid of nutrition, leading to obesity. Processed meat consumption has been shown to be directly linked to cancer, and there is no coincidence that the nations who consume the most meat have the most cancer. According to a recent WHO report, processed meats have been salted, cured, or smoked to enhance flavor. This process increases potential carcinogens considerably. While less of a risk than smoking or alcohol, their proliferation is greater. High performance. Another aspect of health is being able to physically do things efficiently, perform well. All of the skills we associate with sports or work today, running, jumping, climbing, swimming, diving, throwing, catching, wrestling, spearing, arise out of our hunting and gathering past. If we could not perform those skills and perform them well, humans would not have survived. That is why performance is also critical. Humans, like all creatures, are evolutionarily driven to become more efficient. For example, people of the forest, known as pygmies, evolved to be very short, as the jungle is dense with low-hanging cover. The people of La Paz, Bolivia, have a higher number of red blood cells with more hemoglobin to compensate for the less amount of oxygen in their city at 14,000 feet elevation in the Andes. So do the Bajau, Malaysian and Indonesian divers for pearls who have larger spleens to produce more red blood cells. The human body can also be pushed to incredible limits through training and discipline. This exhibits the furthest reaches of health alongside longevity. The marathon monks of Mount Hai, Japan, have developed and preserved an arduous 7-year-long practice, test, and rite of passage initiation ceremony that almost defies comprehension. For that length of time, each year for 100 consecutive days, they, Buddhist monks in hats and robes, run 50-mile marathons every day for 100 straight days. Each morning, they rise at 3 a.m., eat a hearty vegetarian breakfast of rice, noodles, tofu, rice, and tea. They set off wearing woven straw sandals, carrying water, prayer beads, and a staff. They run, walk, sprint 50 miles before 3 p.m. in the afternoon. They then perform their monastery chores, eat another similar meal, and go to sleep. In about 6 to 7 hours, they arise and do it all over again for 100 straight days, for 7 straight years. At the end, they are subjected to a 9-day food and sleep fast, minimal water, and continuous meditation. After this near-death experience, they run a last time. During this last run, not only are they renewed and rejuvenated, all who touch them or encounter them along the way are affected as well. Many are healed of illnesses long thought hopeless. Similar, but more widely distributed in their culture, is the cultural practice of running by the Tarahumara Indians of the Sierra Madre Occidental Mountains, Cooper Canyon region in Mexico. Known in their language as the Raramuri, they originally lived in Chihuahua, but ran to the mountains in Cooper Canyon region, evading Spanish settlers. Raramuri, their name for themselves, means runners on foot. Wearing only huaraches or woven sandals, the men, women, and even children run over 200-mile races over several days. Part ceremony, part competition, the participants also kick a ball the entire length of the race. There are many aspects to this, but one of the aspects can be easily discerned. These feet say a lot. The evenly spaced toes negotiate terrain like a four-wheel drive and indicate a balanced gait and even weight distribution, critical in long-distance endeavor. The benefits to the heart and cardiovascular system are paramount, as it is certain that after hundreds of years, the Tarahumara Raramuri genetically have higher red blood cell count, larger spleens, and higher oxygen carrying capacity. Their legs are very strong and the neuromuscular system is compact and efficient. They know how to relax because one must relax and meld with the rugged trails to endure. They are the basis of John McDougall's book, Born to Run. They are not alone. East Africans possess incredible endurance and dominate international distance races. Their ancestors, the San Bushmen, could chase an animal down for a week with only a few breaks. Yoga, through ancient Kemet and Harappan India, has developed a system of embodiment that has produced and extended what extraordinary human ability means. From being able to hold one's breath for over 5 minutes, to documented stoppage and start of one's heart, to being able to sit motionless for over 24 hours. All of these feats and more are possible. By themselves, they would constitute little more than interesting physical tricks, but as a system of human development, they comprise a complex set of movements, postures, and mudras that train the mind in concentration. From this perspective, concentration produces a profound relaxation response. And it is from the relaxation response that health arises. Spiritual enlightenment, a search for meaning. Early humans soon began to ponder the universe. The night sky alone would inspire reflection. With no light pollution anywhere on the planet, the night sky would have been luminous, inspiring awe and humility, fear, wonder, gratitude. Gratitude would have easily flowed if they had had any time for reflection, and for reflection they needed leisure time. And the only way they could afford leisure time is if their basic needs of food and shelter are met. Over time, some of the ways to show appreciation to the universe and or nature developed into rituals, ceremonies, and religions. This urge, which is universal and has existed for hundreds of thousands of years to understand and make sense of the universe, is too a part of health. It has its own hunger. This part of our health profile, which includes our spiritual beliefs, practices, faith, and psychological health, contains our unlimited possibilities. It is the source of spontaneous remissions, the disappearance of tumors, or the miraculous healing by prayer, chants, incantations, or the laying on of hands. The power of Jesus to raise Lazarus from the dead is the faith exhibited by mothers who have prayed their children back to life. Much in this realm has not been verified by science, but it has been repeatedly observed. It is possible that worship, like exercise and physical labor, therapy, running, yoga, tai chi, weight training, meditation, art, or dance, causes hormonal and neurotransmitter changes such that dopamine and serotonin, both key, are kept at optimal levels, therefore maintaining a healthy balance unto old age. This could account for why the blue zone areas also listed their shared communities and togetherness as reasons for their longevity and happiness. Extraordinary abilities. All indigenous cultures through time demanded of their members that they develop extraordinary abilities. We do not often associate exceptional hearing ability as a health attribute, but if one lives in a jungle, forest, or savanna, exceptional hearing is a necessity. The ability to see acutely far in the distance, as well at night, could make the difference between life and death. Being 80 years old and being able to scamper up a 70-foot tree barefooted is both necessary and extraordinary. So is a 10-year-old child in Somalia who can neither read or write but can recite a story for 4 hours. Or a similar 10-year-old in the bush of the Congo who can describe and name over 80 medicinal plants and over 50 animals in their patterns. So it makes sense that early humans, 300,000 years ago until roughly 12,000 years ago, and even today, needed and need superlative sensorial skills just to survive. Even though humans in urban societies can now rely on technical assistance in the sensing of the environment, these primordial skills still lay dormant. From all indications, these skills may be increasingly needed in the future. Future health. In 1970, Alvin Toffler wrote Future Shock, In it, he describes the psychological disconnect of a future world where society is enamored by personal technology and profit driven to produce high tech throwaway items. Not all the changes predicted will be psychological, some will be physical as well. Combined with the pressures exerted by climate change already beginning to wreak near irrevocable havoc, many personal parameters in response to increased heat will ensue. One is possibly a continued lowering of our base temperature. In the 19th century, it was thought to be 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. At present, it is a full degree less at 97.6 and may go down further to help enable future offspring to cope with higher climatic temperatures. Additionally, because of the emergence of wearable technology, neurological implants, and brain-computer interface, there may be diseases and illnesses that we have never seen before. We could easily foresee nervous system illnesses resembling today's computer viruses or combinations of computer and biological viruses never dreamed of. And this scenario must still include the possibility of psychological dissonance of cohabitating and interacting with humanoids, geminoids, progeny resulting from robot-human relationships, and various other combinations. In a capitalist economy, the more affluent patrons may have many choices, alternatives, and options concerning treatment, self-care modalities, and healing therapies. Working class, poor, and indigenous populations will have to return to earlier skills of increased perception, smell, intuition, physical endurance, and sense of direction, along with improved overall health and fitness from eating a whole foods diet and empowering themselves. If both aspects can be combined, the best of a humane, technical, medical excellence with a refinement of our former indigenous skills and knowledge, and if there's a utopian decrease of greenhouse gases, a golden age of human health could emerge. In this vision, the earth, with its multitude of communities striving for wholeness, caring, and compassion, mirrors individual and personal health. By moving at a high level for a long time and understanding why. Thank you. These are the references. Obviously, there are a lot of references. I highly recommend Richard Grossinger's book, Planet Medicine. It's one of the few books that looks at the entire realm of healing from an evolutionary and anthropological standpoint. Levi Strauss was one of the first anthropologists to begin to look at indigenous and hunter and gatherer society from a non-chauvinistic point of view. He was the first one to begin to look at them as if they could possibly be just as happy as we are. John Rady's book, The Spark, goes into a great deal of the science behind movement, and I highly recommend it because it looks at neurotransmitters and hormones and shows that from a psycho-neuroimmunological perspective that all of our systems are greatly connected. The Sands, Robert and Linda Sands book, The Anthropology of Human Sport and Human Movement, is a really brilliant piece because it looks at the evolution of becoming bipedal and what that meant in terms of the sun and how, the sweat glands had to develop. Otherwise, we would not have made it because we, don't run very fast. We don't have much strength. We don't have much power. And so it showed that in many respects, more than even our brain, our ability to sweat allowed humans to gain an edge. James Scott work is very significant because he looks at history before the earliest states and talks about how they formed and the illnesses that they cultivated. My own work, Nanotechnology, Indigenous Wisdom and Health, I recommend as well because I have a long chapter in there that talks about movement. It looks at movement from the Big Bang and the theories of the Baum-Frampton model of the Big Bang, in the sense that it has been infinite, and there's been a succession of big bangs and black hole dissolutions over, say, a 28 billion year cycle. So thank you.